Alright, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. We're going to get started with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up tonight. There's only 5 board members. The other 2 have work obligations tonight. We'll get started. We need approval of the amended agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended agenda as presented.
Motion by Paul Hills.
I'll second.
Second by Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Is there any public comments on agenda items? Not, we'll move on. Correspondence to the board. We have 2 tonight. The first one is Namas Board of Education. Thank you for the beautiful floral arrangement. It meant a lot to our family and me during this time. Sincerely, Julie Jones. And the second one's from the Christmas Food Pantry. We would like to thank you for your recent food donation to the Christmas Food Pantry. It was a great blessing to the low-income families in our community this past Christmas. They were able to go home with plenty of food and other essential items because of your generosity. Thank you again. Any recognitions?
Well, welcome everybody. It's great to see everybody here this evening. We've got 2 groups of phenomenal Panthers that we'd like to take an opportunity to recognize here at our board meeting tonight. So if we could first have our group from the animal science class, if you guys could come up to the front, and Ms. McKinley, if you will join them up here as well. Let's give them a big round of applause. So this is our first group of phenomenal Panthers that we'd like to recognize tonight, and they are from the animal science class that was taught by Mrs. McKinley during the 2020-2021 school year. And these students participated in the Missouri Cattlemen's Fantasy Feed-Out, which extends beyond the school year, and the results were announced actually in December of this year. We're proud of the class for winning 2nd place in the state of Missouri. Give them a huge round of applause. Great job. So during the feed-out, students selected 5 steers from photos, videos, and basically producers' data. The steers were weighed bi-weekly at the rate of gain and feed efficiency were calculated, with points awarded for each criteria within those sections. After the animals were taken to the processor over the summer, they were then quality graded and points were awarded for marbling within the meat, ribeye area, and yield. And the following students and their advisor, Mrs. McKinley, were recognized in December at the Fantasy Feed-Out ceremony. That's Jackson Fitzwater, Madison Henry, Wyatt Seymour, and Ebony Shaw, who joined us tonight. There were also 3 class members who were 2021 graduates at the time. They were Tyler Bustler, Emily Rougeau, and Lacey Seward. Congratulations on another year of great work in this competition. And let's give them one more big round of applause. All right.
Okay. You guys want to slide over this way?
What's that camera there?
Okay, I'm gonna take a couple pictures. On three, 1, 2, 3. Okay, got it, thank you.
They even wore their great jackets to be able to commiserate that wind in over December. Our second group of Phenomenal Panthers, if we could have them come forward, are our 2 Cyber Patriot teams from our Air Force Junior ROTC. So if you guys will come forward, and Colonel Talley, if you'll come up here with them. Give them a big round of applause. I never felt safer with our computers with Mike Falk sitting over there and these guys back there with them as well. But these guys are here tonight. They are our 2 Cyber Patriot teams from our Air Force JROTC. They are the Server Samurais and the Network Ninjas. I assume the kids picked those names out, Mark.
I believe so, because year before it was A and B.
You picked those out.
I did.
Yeah. So these 2 teams, they actually just competed and finished up a successful season with improved scores at every single competition that they went to. They earned number 1 and number 3 rankings out of 10 all-service teams in Missouri. The Network Ninjas started top 10%, then top 4%, then top 2% out of 700 plus teams, making it to semi-national competition and earning top 30 out of 74 teams. The cadets from the 2 Cyber Patriot teams are Montana Ritchie, Vicenzo, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna miss it. Benny Reynolds, I like Benny. Trinity Duncan, Rebecca Burns, Nathan Wiltrout, Gabriel Irwin, Caleb Sides, Logan Hutchins, Ryan Cheaton, Jalen Vickers. Give them a huge round of applause. The instructors for this group are Colonel Talley, who joins us here tonight, and Senior Master Sergeant Newcomb, and Senior Master Sergeant Jackson, who just was added to our JROTC this year. We're excited to have her. Congratulations, cadets, and as always with all of these, we'd like to send a big thank you out to Navnastrasonic for their continued support of our students and teachers. Our Phenomenal Panthers tonight received a gift certificate as well as their award. So one more big round of applause for our 2 Cyber Patriot teams.
Well done, sir. Sir? Yes, they did good. Yes, they did.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna use 2 phones this time, so bear with me just a second.
Take it.
All right, 1, 2, 3, and another, and 1 more. And I have certificates for the cadets, if you want to meet me after that. Congratulations.
Thank you all, and well done to the kids. You are welcome to stay. You don't have to.
Once again, congratulations everyone and students. We're very proud of your accomplishments.
One of the things that I'll throw in as just a quick soundbite is we are looking at a Department of Defense Education Activity Grant this year, and looking a little bit closer at cybersecurity, some computer science, logistics, both of which apply to, obviously, both of the awards that were recognized tonight. So we'll look forward to sharing more with our community on that as that rolls out. Again, congratulations, everyone. Great job, guys.
All right, moving on, the principal and director's reports. Hopefully everybody got to look at that. I would like to say thank you all for putting that together. That is nice to read monthly and catch us up on some things. So I appreciate that. Any of the board have any questions, comments? If not, we'll go to the MSBA report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of February. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at what's known as competency-based education, the idea that students should advance in their education based on their mastery of skills and expectations, not based on seat time. A new statewide group called the Success Ready Students Work Group is studying the issue here in Missouri. That group is made up of educators, school board members, administrators, parents, and other stakeholders. One of the facilitators of the group is Dr. Pam Hedgepeth, and she tells us competency-based learning meets the individual needs of students.
So competency-based learning is really centered on student learning. And it is an ongoing process of having really clear learning targets, and then students and teachers and parents using assessment tools to really identify where the student learning is. And then where student learning is, then designing instructional practices that really meet the individual needs of students. It's highly motivating for students. It keeps parents and teachers and students very informed on where the current learning level is, so that the learning can be scaffolded and supported to really meet the individual needs of students.
Another facilitator for the project is Dr. Mike Fulton. He tells us the goal of the group is to develop a framework for the use of competency-based learning in Missouri.
As part of that framework, redesign the current state assessment system, including the math test, to better support students, educators, and inform parents on where their child is on their learning continuum, and support them in their growth toward being college, career, and workplace ready. We also are going to have a component of this work that will speak to the need for flexibility by school districts who want to innovate in this space of competency-based learning and assessment.
The Success Ready Students Work Group will be holding a series of meetings during the coming weeks with the goal of having a framework developed by early May. We will be keeping you informed about this group's progress. Teacher recruitment and retention continues to be a major issue throughout Missouri. School districts were facing a teacher shortage prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has only worsened during the past 2 years. The minimum starting teacher salary in Missouri is $25,000 right now, the lowest in the nation. Governor Mike Parson proposed raising that minimum to $38,000 during his recent State of the State address to the General Assembly.
Unfortunately, Missouri is currently ranked 50th in the United States for starting teacher pay. And half of our new teachers leave the profession by their 5th year. This is unacceptable. We must do better. That's why we are proposing to raise teacher pay in every corner of this state.
Under Governor Parsons' proposal, the state would fund 70% of the cost of raising the minimum teacher salary to $38,000, and local school districts would be responsible for 30% of the cost. There are many other issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that are of great concern to MSBA and school board members throughout the state, including the expansion of charter schools, making school board elections partisan, and moving school board elections to the November election day. As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments through critical issue alerts and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. And don't forget, this year's MSBA Legislative Forum is scheduled for March 7th in Jefferson City. Check the MSBA website for registration information. MSBA also is pleased to once again sponsor School Board Recognition Week in Missouri, March 6th through 12th this year, as proclaimed by Governor Parson. It's a great opportunity for school districts and communities to recognize the work of school board members and the important role the local boards of education play as leaders of our public schools. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Anything to add? I'll kind of blend that into my report, but, or I can just segue in. A couple of things I had a chance to be involved in a roundtable discussion with Governor Parson today, and over at UCM, the gracious host. And he's definitely focused on this teacher base pay increase, which is frankly pretty exciting. The key will be how we make that sustainable in our state, because that's going to be a significant jump from 25 to 38, and then obviously you get into some kind of a trickle up effect that if starting teacher is now 38,000, what does that mean for teachers that have 5, 10, 15 years in? That will have a significant impact across the teacher salary schedule. So it's something we're looking into. I think the key right now is the state is, without question, the strongest financial position that it's been in, and then you throw the federal funding on top of that. I want to say that the figures used on a normal year's budget are somewhere around 38 billion, and they're working with an additional 10 billion this year. So it's good for sometimes money can get a lot of things done, and we talked about teacher-based pay, which is something he's committed to. We also talked about how that's going to blend into some infrastructure funding opportunities, and had a brief moment to brief him on our high school innovation campus, which, as the board is aware, he's formally endorsed over the last several years. So overall, a good meeting. The morning started with a meeting with Commissioner Van Dieven in a different event, and she talked about the competency-based learning workforce, and she was clear to say she does not have all the answers for that, because that's a pretty complicated transition, and to move away from the seat time and Carnegie unit that we've operated off of forever. But it also, from a common sense standpoint, if a student has mastered algebra at a certain age or grade level, why would we have them waste a full year sitting in class learning algebra when there are so many other opportunities? And it really focuses on the amount of time that we have with our students being a precious commodity, and frankly, we don't need to waste it with something they already know. But there are other issues that come along with that. So you'll hear more on that. I would definitely encourage the board. I know the bulletins are a lot to read that come out regularly, but stay on top of those. It's a big legislative year. I know we talk about open enrollment extensively. That continues to gain support and traction. It was the
primary topic of concern with the commissioner this morning, and looks like it will get across the finish line. So that's pretty much it. The only other thing, he did say every corner of the state would be impacted by teacher pay, so I don't know what that means for us in the middle. Maybe we'll be able to balance it out. So with that, I'll go ahead and transition into my report. Overall, the report is much more appealing than in January when we were dealing with COVID. Overall, the health condition of the district has improved significantly. Aside from the weather events, things have been running very smoothly with very strong attendance and putting these winter days to good use. We did deploy for the first time earlier or late last month the AMI, which is the Alternative Methods of Instruction, i.e. virtual learning. So we deployed that in a different way for the first time since we shut down for COVID, and overall it went really well. We surveyed our team, and the overwhelming response back was that they were in favor of that. So we've actually made the announcement tonight that we'll be deploying that again for tomorrow. With the incoming weather event, Wyman made the decision to go to essential report only for the morning, and it looks like we gained quite a bit of confidence in the snow event tomorrow. So with the warm temperatures of the ground, it may be pretty safe in the morning, but by the time we would have dismissed at midday or in the afternoon, we were concerned about that. So we're going to again go to AMI tomorrow, and our team was ready to go, and students, it should not be a surprise for any of our students. February 11th was kind of a historic day, hopefully one of many to come for the school district as the district closed on the new site. We can say that that's official now on the north side of Highway 50 to the east of Highway 23. The district has acquired around 45 acres that is contiguous with the existing Navnaster School District Sports Complex for the site of the new Navnaster High School Innovation Campus. We are in the midst of a communication series out to our community, along with some community town halls. But just to kind of go on record here for those in the audience, we will be looking to break ground on phase 1 somewhere in the middle of the year. So things are underway, and we do have a couple of agenda items responsive to that project tonight. One of those primary items tonight is the board is slated to take final action on the selection of a new construction manager. We've gone through a multi-step process on an RFQ, RFP interview, and contract negotiation. So we have that final document for board approval tonight. Once that's approved, it will become public, and we will share out that news. But overall, that's been a great process, and look forward to those new partners. MoDOT property, now the district owns on all 3 sides of the MoDOT property, with Highway 23 bordering on the 4th side of that property. We continue to be in negotiations with the state on how we may be able to capture or acquire that property to be included in that footprint. So that work is continuing, and we are picking up some steam. Earlier this week, last week we sat down with our teachers. We had representatives from each building that sat down and began kind of an initial contract discussion, salary increases, compensation. The topic of the school calendar, there were a couple of items that came up that will delay a vote on the school calendar. So we're going to kind of work through some different options on a couple of PD days. Really, it's that Friday after parent-teacher conferences that has been a little bit of a mixed bag of reviews. A lot of folks are not overly worried about it, but some are. So we're going to give some options on that, and then put out a survey to our employees. So look for that final recommendation on the school calendar next month. We also talked about probably the most notable out of that discussion with the teachers would be the talk about raising teacher-based pay, and then on top of that, the potential return of career ladder, which was kind of funny because some in the room didn't know what career ladder was, but some of us did. For the board, that is a program, it's a stair-steps kind of a career ladder program, hence the name, where after a certain number of years in the district, teachers become eligible for a $1,500, $3,000, and $5,000 annual compensation in exchange for additional work performed. So I think there's a pretty good chance that that may return. The good thing is the majority of that is paid by the state. So we do a local match of $4. The state kicks in, so it costs us $4 to get $10 into the pockets of our teachers. So generally speaking, it is something that I will, as shared with the teachers, it's something that to me just makes good sense. And if it does come to pass, you'll hear more about that. But implications on the budget are significant. And I talked to them about trying to make sure that we stair step in the right way within base increases, so that we can make sure and be ready to take advantage of that without overstressing our budget. Next up is the impact aid application that was submitted on time and full on January 28th. I want to say thank you to Ms. Liz Clark and our team out of Whiteman Air Force Base with their assistance in vetting and approving the source check forms. As a reminder, we can submit that. It has to be submitted by January 31st, and then we can actually modify that as needed through, I want to say, June. And remember, that's for fiscal year 23, so that's submitted for next year. Financially speaking, we have received an initial impact aid payment of 50% of our basic support. This month, it will show up on the revenues for this month ending, but we were glad to get that in, especially considering the continuing resolution that we're operating under. We look forward to a final budget approval and then hopefully seeing the balance of that impact aid, including our heavily impacted aid, come in on time before the end of the fiscal year. We also are slated to receive reimbursement on the rooftop HVAC project that completed late last year. They processed that, and we look for around $711,000 in our claim to be reimbursed to the district. All right, that moves me into enrollment. I'll allow that to stand as presented. And then our balance all funds, $21,203,617. Revenues to date, $9,857,404, which is 43.4% anticipated. Expenditures to date, $11,262,902, which is 54.9% of budget. There are no previous month activities other than those listed today with the governor and commissioner. I will be traveling out on March 6th through 9th to Arlington for the Association of Defense Communities National Summit. Just as a reminder, we are continuing to try to push an education link into that organization to try to help with our advocacy work. With that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Wheeler. Is there any questions, comments from the board?
Sir, we might cover this in old business under the facility plan and communication mini-series, but when is the third session for the community forum in regards to the new campus, and what's the topic?
Yep, so we have the session 1 and 2 were repeats, which are already in the books. Session 3 and 4 are repeats. We did session 3 last Wednesday. Mr. Coron covered that while we were in doing our final interviews. And that session 4 that will be a repeat with the district architects is slated for the 23rd of February. And then I believe our 5th session is in March 22nd. Thank you, Mrs. Brent. And that will kind of be, really, that agenda for that 5th session has not been decided yet. We will look at the feedback, see if there are any requests from our community, and then kind of frame up that session. But we should have some pretty exciting news to share by mid-March. Obviously, land acquisition and the new partnership with our construction management, and then probably another reintroduction of our district architects as well. And since we do have a couple of additional people in the audience, this first phase is being supported by a $4.5 million FEMA grant, which the district anticipates or should receive by August. And then also we want to make sure that everyone knows this first phase is a no tax initiative, so that will be paid through grant funds and cash on hand. Thank you.
Anything else? Moving on to the consent agenda. For the board
It really is, and I mean, we kind of brag on all of our programs, but it's pretty exciting what they're doing. Full motion two-person simulator, you guys saw the cyber aviation ground school. My son is already saying, hey, when can I get in JROTC, because he wants to graduate with his private pilot's license like these other students that he's heard about. So it's pretty neat. We'll relay those sentiments. But they do a great job with their inspection and knocked it out of the park again this year.
Is there anything you'd like to point out to the new?
Just a point of clarification, because we use AMI on our snow days, and we'll use that again tomorrow, we technically do not have a weather makeup day. So we are staying out of session for this upcoming Monday for President's Day, will remain a holiday. We still do have some of those COVID days that were missed. We have not yet determined how or where or if we will make those up. I want to wait till the end of winter before we decide how we will do those. But payroll has continued. It's been a smooth process. Mrs. Harding's taking care of that, and just look for more information on that probably by around April. Otherwise, there's just a lot of minutes to approve.
If there's nothing else to add, we look for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Paul Berkey,
I'll second it.
Kelly Davis with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
I did see one more thing worth mentioning. Be sure and get your personal financial disclosure in. If you need assistance with that, just reach out to myself or Mrs. Miller. And we also have, if you have completed your training, that please let us know. We'll be happy to work with you on that as well. We have that 1 hour refresher training. I think Mrs. Davis has that in, and Mr. Hills.
If we could send a refresher, email to the field out. You're done.
You're done.
Mr. Jones will get it after basketball season's over. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to the new business. We need, if everybody, is there any questions about the bills? I believe I can do the same. I think
I moved the BMO along with the Bolton bill, so you're good to vote on this one.
you just saw one in there, didn't you?
Make a motion that we approve the approval of bills for full board as presented.
Second. Paul Berkey makes the motion, Grant Jones seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Now we need approval of the bills with the 2 abstentions.
Make a motion to approve the bill requiring abstention by Bolton
Jones.
and Mr. Jones.
I second.
Motion presented by Paul Berkey, seconded by Kelly Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0-1. Jones abstained.
Thank you.
Moving on to the COVID-19 update.
All right, so I think I've covered most of this. So, as the board is aware, the district did shut down Whiteland back in January. They were shut down 2 days ahead of the rest of the district, just based on the numbers and the staffing. The employees did work those days, so we're looking at the balance that is consistent across the whole district. Again, since that time, our health has improved significantly, so we are in good shape overall. Looking forward, looks like we should be able to wrap out the year without any major issues. Again, we're waiting until we get through winter before making final decisions on makeup. Other than that, no changes have occurred with the district's COVID protocols. We are still doing the family quarantines, we probably will back off of that pretty soon, as we see those numbers taper off, but we did reinstitute that, family quarantine when we saw that peak. But look for that to back off, and then anything on our safe return to schools plan, we, just take a look at that monthly. We do through this COVID update, have an opportunity to make any, changes or feedback, or updates to that plan. So just as a board, let me know if you're hearing anything. Overall, it seems like the community has been, continue to be very supportive, and, we're cruising along towards the end of the year.
Any questions, comments from the board? Moving on to fiscal year 2022 impact aid application.
As shared in my superintendent's report, we did submit our FY23 impact aid application on time, and we just do this as a matter of record. You can kind of look through our numbers. Overall, we're seeing growth in our numbers, and that's a good thing. So in that application, you can see the preceding year and then the current year, all the way through the cells. But overall, good work. We appreciate the teamwork in the district office and then in our building offices to vet and scrub those data and make sure that we're correct on our source check. And then once again, want to thank Liz Clark and the team out of Wyman for their assistance.
Any comments, questions? This is an action item.
I'm glad to see that student numbers continue to grow. Looks to me like we're up about 150 students from last year, so looks like great news.
Keep in mind, we had the Little Wingman preschool included in last year's count as well,
Yes.
or at least the first 3 sections. So last year's numbers went up about 120 as well.
That's great.
There's no more questions or comments. Need a motion.
Make a motion to approve 2022 impact aid application as presented.
Motion by Grant Jones.
I'll second.
Paul Hills seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to old business, the AE scope of work for the non-SEMA projects.
So this is a ratification of this scope of work. Back in, I want to say December, when the board approved made a motion to approve the architectural engineering scope of work for the SEMA FEMA project. We also included this document, this exact document, which is the scope of work for the non-SEMA components. But because that was included under one agenda item, I wanted to pull this out for board ratification just to make sure that we're very clear on the difference in the scope of work for the SEMA and the non-SEMA project. And just wanted to bring that abundantly to the board's attention and then get a motion to ratify just so that we're all up to speed and on the same page. And that'll separate out those two agenda items and motions, since one of those is going to originate predominantly from SEMA funds. I wanted to not have any chance of those lines being blurred. But other than this ratification, this is the exact same document the board reviewed and approved back in December.
Any questions?
This is the informational or the action item?
It's an action. So it'll be motion to ratify.
Make a motion to ratify the scope of work for architectural engineering services Insight Design Studios for non-SEMA related projects as presented.
Paul Burge makes a motion.
Second.
Grant. Grant seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Do you have a couple follow-ups? So I met with the architects yesterday. Week's been a long one. Yesterday morning, and they're already looking at the dome, doing some initial schematic design, and then starting to look at the two placements, which we have to report to SEMA here within the next 4 to 6 weeks. They're also looking at, as we talked with Mr. President Bolton, at the end of last meeting, he had suggested that we look at getting an initial early dirt package in. So I shared that with them, and they're starting to look at that. And then that afternoon I was able to go over and meet with Apples and go through the final contract that will be presented to the board later tonight. So overall, they're together. In the next 4 to 6 weeks, there will be a number of engagement meetings between our construction managers and our architects to kind of begin that process.
Just to clarify for people listening, when you use the term dome or FEMA, would you please explain to anybody possibly listening that it is a grant that we...
Sure. So we have submitted to the state a request, a grant. We're in the process of submitting a grant application for a tornado community safe room storm shelter, P365 storm shelter. And the grant program is called the HMGP Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And the allocation of those funds are based on the population that we serve, and it goes out about a half mile around the location, and also carries with it any daytime load. So our students, our teachers, if we have a sporting event on that location, we pick up that load of population, and then that results in the amount. And the way that this process works is you go through that, what I would call a pre-application. They call it a notice of intent to apply. And we went through that last year, and they reviewed it and accepted it. And there are 2 ways that they accept. They either accept in what they call the funded category, which means that once they accept, then they set aside the funding, or they'll accept it in a stack, which means an alternate. We got accepted into the funded lane, which they then say, okay, we've accepted your notice of intent. You may now start the application process. So we are in the application process, which we partner with Tophet Associates, which is the statewide leader in FEMA projects. And we're working with them and our district architects to get that application done. The funding, it's never final until, the check may be in the mail, but you don't cash it until you get it, kind of thing. So this is a little bit different, but for all intents and purposes, once that notice of intent was accepted, you can't say that it's guaranteed funding, but it's as close to guaranteed as we can be. So we feel good about that. We have a good project and a great team working on it. So we will know on that final funding sometime probably around August, September. But all systems look really good right now.
A great job in following that application process and making that happen.
And I didn't answer your question though, but we're doing this in the form of a monolithic dome, which will also serve as a collegiate style gymnasium. It'll have a number of functions in there for the school district, but primarily it's a tornado safe room.
Great.
The part of the dome is the cost per square foot is very low, and then it's more timely right now than ever before because of the issues with procurement of some materials. We get to avoid some of those delays because of the way that the structure is put in place. Thank you.
So item A passed 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to B, which is the financial plan and communication mini-series.
So this is just one that's a repeat from the last couple of months. We are about midway through a 10-part communication mini-series that is being sent out to our families every Sunday night. And I'm just going to kind of keep this on the docket while we go through that series, and would ask the board to just be sure, if you haven't really sat down and taken time to look through this, there's a lot of information, and it's getting out to our people. So it's something that, that we definitely need to be on the same page. If you have any questions, please let me know. But we'll keep it on here probably one more month and then we'll kick it off. And I forgot one important thing that I wanted to mention in my superintendent report, and I want to kind of tie this in right here. I just pulled this out we've talked a lot about reaching our people, and especially with this communication mini-series, the way that Mrs. Brand has sent that out, it's through a product called S'more, and allows her to not only see the number of people that view the event, but it also allows to see the click time, the engagement time, and we can get some good metrics to see who we're reaching. But it's one way that we're reaching a lot of people. We are also going to do some additional hard copy print mailings to make sure that we reach some folks. But I just wanted to highlight the power. This is Michael Franklin, our new head football coach. There were almost 23,000 reached by this post on Facebook. We have 4,600 followers. We show a growth rate here. The monthly reach was 40,000. This Lady Panthers Wrestling reached 4,500. And then she goes through not only what we do on Facebook, Twitter reached 15,000. Our school messenger reached 60,000 emails delivered. I promise you our parents read every single one of them, top to bottom. But the information is there. Even if they browse it, they're getting that information. District website had 12,000 visitors, and then you can see what's going on our mobile app, 7,500 views, 6,300 active users. So there's a lot of communication going out, but we also recognize that, print media still does reach a lot of people, and this doesn't reach a lot of people. So we're working on that, and we're planning a packet of information that will be mailed out to try to reach those folks. And then here's the community forum. So I just wanted to mention that along with, since I missed it in my superintendent report, I wanted to let you know that this communication mini-series is reaching a lot of folks. So hopefully they're taking time to read it and really digest what's being sent out.
Well, I, for one, am very, very happy to see Gina Brandt and the rest of your team put all this information out to our stakeholders, taxpayers, alumni around the country. If they've got Facebook and they're connected to Knob-Noster, it gives us stuff that can, it feeds them the information of what's going on in their hometown community or where they're from. And like I said, it's very, very nice to see all this put out, new information to these stakeholders and taxpayers and parents and kids in the state. Great job.
Thank you. And Mrs. I can't say it. I mean, she's the person behind the messages. She and I we spend a lot of quality time communicating this time of year and throughout the year, but especially during the winter months. But jokes aside, you do a fantastic job and you're a tremendous asset for our school district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody got anything else? Not an action item. We'll move on to fiscal year 22 school calendar.
Yep, and as mentioned, this is no action. It's just a second reading, and we will be getting a little more information from our teachers before I make a final recommendation. Overall, it's going to look very similar to this year, with maybe a couple minor changes.
Any comments? Questions? Moving on, we need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I do want to clarify for the audience and the board, the function of the amendment to the agenda was the addition of legal for tonight's executive session.
Make a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to RSMO 610, 21, 1, 2, 3, 12, and 13 by roll call vote.
Thank you, Kelly.
I'll second that motion.
Paul Hill seconds. By roll call, start with Paul.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Pick back up in about 15 minutes, about 5 after
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight.
Jump in.